All right, now it's time for the detail stuff. Now, as you can see right here, this is just a plain chipboard model. Nothing really to give it any dimension, maybe the fins and wings a little bit. But what I'm going to be doing in this video is cutting out, I call it armor. It's going to be these panels that are irregular shaped and glued on, and basically they just give it a finished, more three-dimensional look. So what I normally do on this is I just pick a panel that I want to work with. And the first one that comes to mind is this one right here. Now, again, I'm not going with an accurate, I don't need an accurate model. It doesn't have to look like the one that you would go buy in a store and put together. So I'm doing this sort of free-handed here, just what looks good. So I can guarantee you that what I end up with will not be a store. It will not look like a store-bought model. I'm making my own decisions on some of these pieces, and so ultimately it will not look like that. So when you're doing something like this, try to remember it's always good to work, make pairs. You're doing something that is going to be symmetrical. So when you can, it's always best to make them at the same time so that you can put them together and make sure all their surfaces or their edges are identical. So what I'm going to do here, well, I'm going to go ahead and heat up the hot glue gun while I'm at it. I am going to use a pen to make a series of marks where I will cut. So I'm just making little dots here. And this, again, as I always do, this is going to be a template, all right? Not the final thing. And what I'll do is I will use a straight edge just to connect the dots. And I make the reason I make a template first, and I've explained this in the other videos, is when you trace something, when you make it, that does not look right. I'm gonna do this again. When you trace something, the pen is adding a little bit of thickness, and then when you cut it, do you cut it below the line, above the line, on the line? There's all kinds of different ways that can be done. But when you make a template out of chipboard, and then you use that to make your pieces that you're actually going to glue to your model, you can sort of know that they are going to be the same. So what I'm doing here is I was using this bottom edge, which I did not cut straight. So instead I'm going to use this top, which was cut straight, and I'll use that to make my points where I will connect things. All right, that's better. Now, did I do it this way? I didn't make a dot down here. That's what I did. I knew there was one dot I didn't make. So again, just try and make it as, try to make your lines as straight as possible, because now you're moving into armor. You're moving into things that are going to be glued exterior to the to all the other parts. So little mistakes are going to be very apparent. And before I cut this out, I will show you. All right, so I have got that piece here, and you can cut this with a blade or with scissors. I'm just doing it with scissors because it's faster and because this is my template. So what I will do now is, now that I have the template, I will use an actual blade to cut versus tracing this. Now you could just trace this with a pen and then cut it out, and you pretty much have two exact pieces. But instead, what I want to do is I want to put this down on here like so, and I'm just going to, you know what? I changed my mind. I am going to trace it. It just, it's going to be really tricky for me to get this inner angle here. So I am going to trace two copies, and then when I'm done cutting these out, I will put them together and cut any excess, any mistakes I made. And that will allow me to make sure they're the same size. Now, because they're being glued on opposite sides, you're not going, any small errors, you're not going to see those. I mean, somebody would have to take a ruler and measure on one side and then flip it over and measure on the other side to see if there are differences. The differences when you're cutting with scissors is not going to be that drastic. I mean, maybe somebody's got really good accurate eyes and they'll be able to look and go, oh, there's a mistake there. But typically, you just want to go as good as you can for your symmetry, left to right. And that, speaking of symmetry, remember, you're going to be gluing one of these a certain way, and then on the flip side, you have to remember to flip the chipboard around so that you'll see what I mean in just a moment. I'll show it to you. So let me cut this out. Now again, I haven't put these up against one another yet to check for accuracy. I'll do that in just a second. All right, you take the two pieces, put them together, and I can automatically tell you, I can even show you. Can you see the little overhang there? So they're not accurate. I did not cut them accurate. You can go a little crazy and you can make these super, super accurate matching. But again, are you going to be able to visibly tell the difference between these two when they're glued on opposite sides of the ship? Probably not. All right, so now, since I cut that piece out of my template here, again, you could use the template to get the exact placement, but chances are you're just going to be able to eyeball this. I want it to go in just a little bit, leaving maybe 1/8 of an inch here. And on this, remember to spread your hot glue out quite a bit. Use the nozzle to sort of flatten it out, because what you don't want to do is have the chipboard sticking out. You want it to look flush. You want it to be flush with the metal. I mean, with the flush with the flat piece here, with no gaps in here. So if you put a lot of hot glue, you're going to end up with a gap in there because hot glue does not compress really, really well. All right, so there we go. We got that piece. This was the template, so I'm going to put a T on that so I don't actually use that. Here's the matching piece. Now, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, you can only glue it one way. Now on this way, you got to remember to put the glue on this side. You're laughing, or somebody's out there laughing, but believe it or not, I've done it and other people have done it where you glue a piece on, not checking the placement, the proper placement of it. All right, there we go. All right, so first piece of armor done. Now we've only got 20 or 30 more pieces. So let's keep going. All right, one thing I'm not going to do is these pieces just yet. These pieces are unusual. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7 pieces are a little different on one side, and there's 7 on the other. So we'll do those in just a little while. But I want to keep working on the armor plating here. So this piece right here is actually a gun that comes out. It's mounted here and it sticks out. So I'm not going to do that one right now. What I am going to do, however, is this piece right here. This unusual angled piece right there. Now this piece angles back. See that right there? It angles back a little bit. So this is not a true representation of that piece, but it's close enough. I can take my my blade, cut it out. Probably should use scissors. Oh well. I'm not concerned that this piece be exactly the right dimension. There is an angle. Technically this piece should be a little bit wider, just a little bit more this way, because this piece is actually at an angle, not perpendicular to the paper. It's angled back, so it's a little longer. But as you can see, it's going to go in here, and it's not really going to matter. It's not really going to matter if it's just a 1/16 of a millimeter short or not. Now, the tricky part here is I'm going to just use some painter's tape because this is such a small piece, it's kind of annoying to just fold up a piece of painter's tape, stick it on the back like that, okay. And I'm just going to cut it out with scissors first, and then I'll cut two, and then I'll put them together and match them up so that they're approximately the same size. All right, just cut away anything that's not the paper template that you're using. This small one here, I'll use a blade on. It's just easier, and you'll get a nice sharp edge if you do that versus using scissors. All right, so there's one. All right, peel it off, don't rip it. Come on, there we go. All right, and then I'll do, now this one, I'm just gonna cut it again, but this one will be flipped around. Remember, it's a mirror image. So let me just trim that off. All right, and then we'll cut another one. I'm trying not to cut on the paper, but as close to it as I can, so it'll match that other one. I'll use my blades again. And again, if you do these together as a set, for one thing, you won't have to print up two extra copies of your side view. You know, when you cut one out, you might lose this piece. Just make two. Do both sides at the same time. Just mirror image. All right, here they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them together. And actually, I did a pretty good job on that. Yep, it's a little extra. Again, not a perfectionist here, but might as well since they're so easy to cut. All right, here's the two pieces. So I look on here. This one's going to go this way. It's going to be angled like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it on. Normally, I would use, if I weren't in a rush, and I kind of am in a rush, I want to get this thing done. If I weren't in a rush, I might use tacky glue. It has to dry a longer period, but it compresses better, so you end up not risking having a gap. But I didn't put a lot of glue on there, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, visually, before you glue anything, make sure you got the mirror image. So the mirror image is this one, so it's going to go like that. All right like that. And I like to look at it and just kind of give myself an eyeball. The point is maybe it's right at the tip of the chipboard, so I know where to glue it. I just put a little glue on there and get it put in place. There we go. Close enough. Now I just noticed something that I'm going to fix on the fly here. I want to show you. When I push that, you see this? See how it's moving in right up there near the corner? I don't like that, so I'm going to fix that right now by just putting a little bit of glue. Count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then smooth it with my finger. It fills in that gap there. It'll fill in that gap, and when it hardens, I won't be able to press in on that. Just a little bit to smooth it out. All right, so that's another panel. Now what I'm going to do, just for looks here, I'm going to do this one below it. It's kind of hard to tell because I've cut it out, but there was like a really thin gap between this piece and this piece, very thin. I'm going to make the gap a little more prominent. You're going to be able to actually see it, but the reason being is there's no way I'm going to be able to cut that piece properly so that I get that. I mean, on this paper, I can't even tell you what that gap is. Maybe a 1/64 of an inch. Very, very thin and very difficult to mimic. So instead, I'm going to just cut this piece a little. This piece right here is going to fit in this gap, okay? Can you see that? Now, I want a gap between, I don't want it touching like that. I want there to be an actual physical gap. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim, I'm going to trim the same, I'm going to trim a little off of here and a little off of here. And if I find that I cut too much, I'll just add it back on. Yeah, I cut a little too much. All right, so I need, oh no I didn't. I forgot to trim off the top here. That's what it was. All right. That's a little bit better. Now I can't get it out. All right, so if I want it, it's going to have to go a little deeper. A little deeper. All right, so it's getting a little tricky with the blade, so I'm just going to do it with scissors here. I'm just trimming the paper and sizing it so I can fit it in there and see what looks good, and that actually won't look too bad right there. That will look fine. All right, so I need 2 copies of this. So once again, I'll just make myself a little piece of painter's tape to stick it and cut it out with some scissors. Come on. All right. Somebody's at my front door. This piece has has a 90-degree angle, so I can just put it right here at the edge and save a little bit of chipboard, or save the energy not having to cut so much. All right, and I'm just going to cut this with a blade. There we go. There's one. Cut another one. Use the same technique. Just place it so that I reduce the number of cuts I have to make. All right. And then all right, there we go. These 2 pieces, and pretty good. Not bad at all. All right, so this piece will go in here, like so. Actually, you know what? Pull it down just a hair. Yeah, I'm going to glue it flush with the bottom edge down here. That way it'll make it easier for me on the other side to know exactly where to glue it. All right, stick it in there, make sure it's flush with the bottom. There we go, one panel. Flip it around, gonna do the same thing with this side. Always place it just so you know which side to glue on. I've made so many mistakes over the years with putting the glue on without looking, and you find out you put the glue on the wrong side. I'm just gluing it flush here. Pretty good. All right, the final thing I want to show you before I go time lapse is this piece that I just did has these little tiny rectangles right there. See them? All right, so what we're going to do, we need 2 for each one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my blade on this because I want them to look good. I want them to not look like they were hand cut with scissors. So I am just going to cut a small sliver with my blade, and it'll be a uniform width like that. Now what I'll do is I'm going to cut one, and I'm going to use it, place it on here, and I will cut the second one to match. There we go. And before I lose those, I want to cut 2 more for the other side. And one. And they're finicky. There we go. 2. Now for these, hot glue probably isn't the best. They're going to go right here, right on there like that. It just adds one more level of detail. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I may move them up a little bit. I'm trying to change it to what looks good. I think one up above and then one on the side down here like that would look cool. So let me see if I can do this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put enough hot glue on here to, yeah. You get really good at knowing how to squeeze out just the right amount of glue. All right. There we go. there's one. So I'm going to glue one on the other side, and I'm just looking, it's flush with that point and halfway up, so it'll be flush with that point and halfway up. Okay. All right, just a little tiny bit of glue. Flush and flush. Let's see. Halfway would be right about there. All right, so you can just sort of spin it around, make sure it looks accurate. It's pretty good, not bad. Now this other one, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to glue this one down here, but I'm going to glue it I'm going to glue it parallel to the floor. Okay. Like that. Okay. Just remember to take a good look at it so you know where to glue the other one. I think I've got it figured out. All right. Okay. There we go. 2 pieces. Now, it still looks like chipboard, but when this thing is primed and painted, all these levels that I'm adding on this will add detail that makes it look more like a real ship. Right now you've got all this flat area which just will not look good if it's primed and painted. It'll all the glue and other details will show up. So the goal here is to try to cover a lot of that up. Now this right here is going to be covered up with the cockpit, which I have somewhere. I haven't finished the cockpit yet, but you know, it'll be mostly covered up. And then I'll do something on these heavy lines right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch over to time lapse. And during the time lapse, what you're going to see me do is you're going to see me add panels to the fins here, here, here. Probably some detail work on the engines and the sides and stuff like that. And probably some more stuff on the side here, although I know that this is a gun. But we'll switch over now to time lapse, and you can watch as this thing starts coming together. All right, I need to glue a couple panels right here, but before I do that, I want to attach the cockpit. Now, the cockpit's not done yet. I need to cover the sides here. This is going to be just a temporary piece. There will be some other pieces added to give it that framed glass appearance, but I need this in place to continue. So what I'm going to do is, fortunately, these sides are flush, so what I can do is put hot glue on here and stick it on and then cut it trim, or trim it flush, excuse me. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to put some hot glue on here. Well, let me let the hot glue heat up. All right, I guess I can go ahead and cut these pieces out. So I'm going to do that right now. Actually, I could have just measured these, and because they're pretty straight, and they just have this one little bevel on the side here. But that's okay. I'll go ahead and cut it out, and then I can measure it and just cut out 2 long pieces of this length while the hot glue is heating up. This piece is 3.5. Wow, that's interesting that so many of these things. The system that this is obviously British, I guess, but it's metric online. But it's amazing how many of the measurements are turning out to be even numbers for inches. All right, so 3.5 by, and it looks like it'll be about 3/8. Yep, 3/8. 3/8 by 3.5. So all I've got to do here, I'm going to use a different piece of chipboard that's actually got a straight edge. Let me get a piece of that. All right, so let me just cut 3/8 or mark for 3/8, which is right there, and over here. All right. So I'll cut this strip, and then I'll cut two 3.5-inch pieces off of it. And those will be the, got a new blade here, so it's nice cut. All right, these were 3.5, which I guess I could probably do that on the board here. That's what I'll do. I'll just, instead of making a mark, I'm just going to go 3.5, which would be right there. These thin pieces don't hold well on the, let's see, is that 3.5? That is 3.5. The thinner the piece, they move underneath the ruler. It's kind of a pain, but not much I can do about it. Just make a mark. Cut that with scissors. It doesn't have to be extremely accurate. All right, so these two pieces are slightly different length. All right, now they're the same length. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut one edge off like that, put it on here, make a mirror, or make an exact copy of it. These two pieces will go here and here. But before I glue those down, let me go ahead and do the, this hot glue should be done by now. So again, I'm just going to run a hot bead of glue down here and here. All right, what I do is I take it and I glue it down on a piece of scrap. I'll let that dry really, or cool really good before I trim it flush. Thankfully it's cold down here, so it won't take too long. Let's see, that was here, here, and here. Okay. See how I'm just trimming it flush. All right, and down here. All right, and then the back. This is a little tricky because there's a bead of glue here. You got to cut over it, but if you go slow, you'll be all right. You won't accidentally cut into the chipboard that you don't want to cut. There we go. There we go. All right, so I've glued a side on here. Let me do the other side real quick. Actually, slice that off. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just scoring it here so I know where to make that final cut. Chipboard, actually, you can cut it like you can just saw on it. It will eventually give in and come off. You can sand it too, which is interesting. All right, almost done. There we go. All right, now I do this side. And for this, I don't want to go. Let's see, put it on there like that, glue it down. Okay. All right, do you see what I'm doing? I'm just covering these holes by just applying glue, putting it down, and then I'll trim off the excess flush with the cockpit, like that. All right, and then this piece I need to cut like that. All right, let me just see how that's going to look. Yeah. Okay. Again, it doesn't look good in chipboard form. Yes, it is hideous, but just trust me. All right, let's do this side. There we go. Almost done. All right, all that's left is this little piece right here. I'm using the template piece here I made earlier. I don't intend to make a second one of these, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. This was just more of a, can I do it? I don't actually play Warhammer, so having a ship like this just doesn't really matter to me. But it's fun to try things and see if you can actually do them. So that's what I was doing here. All right. All right, almost done. I can glue the cockpit on, or at least the framework. All right, this is going to go on here like so. I've got a center line to line up on the line here, so I know how to do that. So I'm going to put a thin bead down and then smooth it out and then stick it on. I don't get very long to hold it. There we go. All right, it's in place. All right, so now I've got these two pieces that need to go here. Okay. This is going to go like that. All right, are you starting to see it sort of come together with some of the detail work and pieces? We're just going to keep adding armor to it and just building it up, making it a larger, more heavy design. So again, I'm going to go to time lapse and do some more on the sides, engines, things like that, just adding little bits of detail. We'll work on these front wings. They're real easy to do. So they're so small, it won't take long to do them. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the basic shape of the front fin here. Right there. I'm going to actually trim it. Actually, I was like, that's not right. How's this go? It goes like front face goes like that. There we go. All right, definitely a little too big. That goes out. Well, I really made a mistake there. All Oh, I know why. Derp. Alright, there we go. That's what it was. I knew there was something wrong. Alright, so and I'll clip this last piece off right here. This is what I need. That, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a piece that looks like this. Just this L-shaped piece, and it's going to be glued on here and a mirror image on the other side. So I need to cut this out, and I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to freehand cut one with scissors just by holding it in place and cutting around it. Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm just going all the way around, just spinning it and cutting as I need. And then what I'll do here is I will cut this with a blade. I'll score it first, and then I'll know where to cut. So I'll use this to make a second one. When these are cut out, I'll put them together and make sure that they are somewhat matching in dimensions. All right, which I know they're probably, well, actually that was pretty good. This side is a little, actually, wait a minute. All right, which is the shorter side? That one. All right, so if that's the shorter side, all I've got to do is trim this a little bit. There, two matching ones. So this one will go here, but I need to trim just a hair off there like that. So if that one goes like that, that one goes here, so it's got to go like this to get the angle, the same angle. All right. So this one goes on like so. This one goes over here. Not bad. This one's just a little long. I don't know why. Trim it short just a hair. All right, so I'm going to glue this on here like that. And I'm also going to put a bead on the edge here to strengthen it. So not only am I gluing down, but I'm going to put some on the side here to further strengthen this little wing, if that makes sense. There you go. All right, and then this one, make sure just double fit. Yep, same thing. All right, I'll glue it on this side and a little on the edge to reinforce. All right, there we go. All right, what else can we do? Need to work on the sides here. All right, and again, I'm just moving around, going from edge to edge. I mean, I'm going from surface to surface, just trying out new things to see what it looks like. Nothing technical or fancy. All right. Whenever I'm doing a flat surface like this, what I like to do is I like to cut the piece first. So let's just do this. It's almost 2 full inches by 3/4. All right, so I'm going to cut a 3/4 wide strip. Show you 3/4 wide. And I'm going to use this 3/4 wide strip to create some detail work for the ship. And I just want everything to be a consistent width or length or what have you, so that's why I'm cutting one long strip of this, so I can use it up. All right, now I also measured this length as almost 2 full inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten this. I'm going to cut, let's just do 1 3/4. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 3/4. Okay, there we go. So these don't have to be super accurate, so that's why I'm going to just cut them with scissors. I'll use one to cut another one just to make sure they're roughly the same size. All right, these two are going to be panels that go over here, but as you can see, it covers the entire panel. So I need to actually shorten this a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to trim off with a blade. I'm going to trim off about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm just doing this visually on one, and then I'll match it up to the other one and cut it with scissors. All right, so I take this, put it on here like so. I'll just trim this one with scissors, just so they're roughly the same length. All right, 2 pieces, right? Now here's what I like to do. I like to cut one piece at an angle, like so. See that? Then what I do is I use it to do it on the second one, on the to make 2 of these. All right, so both of these look like that, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to trim off just a little bit off of one. This is called I call this the Star Wars method. You see this a lot on Star Wars ships, panels that don't touch, that have a gap in them. So now what I can do is I can glue this on here like so with that gap, and it gives it, you know, an armored look. See that? So I'll take these, put a little glue on it. Place one first, and then you'll be able to do the gap properly. I'm doing this where the edge of this piece of chipboard is visible. And then this piece, there we go. Can you see the gap? Looks like armor, okay? Flip it over. Now remember, you want this. This is going to go like that. So get your orientation set up so you know which side to glue. And if I remember right, I did it flush where this was visible. So I did that. And then this piece will go on here like that. Like so. I like it. There we go. All right, let's keep going. More paneling, more armor.